Why they hate Tolkien? There's a lot of reasons. A lot of people are mad at this. Yep. I think they're all real. Yep, I can see chat. Yep, chat loves it. They know they're real.
Never before has any voice uttered the words of that tongue here in Imladris.
Do not ask your pardon, Master Elrond. For the black speech of Mordor may yet be heard in every corner of the West.
Dirterotic.com.
Oh.
Not a year goes by without some hack writer from the Access Media or...
Oh, God. Are you kidding me?
Access Media or Hackademic attacking our beloved Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. And this year is no different. From the Telegraph, students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings is offensive. University course suggests Tolkien's treatment of evil characters follows a tradition of anti-African antipathy.
Why is it that the evil characters are being associated with Africans? Like, I feel like that's a bit of a stretch, right? What the hell is that from?
Generally, academics and activists, and quite frankly, I don't know the difference between the two, so we'll just people who don't like to have fun and people who are no fun to be around hate Lord of the Rings. And the attacks on Tolkien go back to the times when he was alive. But in recent times, it was made demonstrably worse by Amazon. You know, the company that started out selling books?
Yeah.
When its owner, Jeff Bezos, decided he wanted to make his own Game of Thrones and bought Lord of the Rings, which is funny because right now, Game of Thrones, along with Harry Potter, DC Comics, and the core part of Lord of the Rings that Jeff Bezos actually wants is potentially for sale.
Wow.
Anyway, Jeff Bezos is the Rings of Power, you know, the billion-dollar disaster and failure that's basically a vanity project right now.
I'm surprised that they're still making it.
Gave the activists absolutely everything they wanted. Unfortunately, there weren't enough of them to watch, but it did stir the conversation back up again. 5 years ago, I made a video called They Are Coming for Lord of the Rings, and it was a simple warning that the same thing we've seen happen to Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who was going to happen to the Professor's secondary world.
Well, the reason why is because they want to get inside of these pieces of media and then change them and reshape them to make them reinforce the way they see the world. That's the reason why all of this media keeps getting changed. And it gets changed in like fundamental ways because these people want it to mean fundamentally different things. That's the reason why.
I've been circling this mythology for a long time. And once they sunk their teeth into it with the help of their Hollywood corporate overlords, if anyone didn't like it, well, they were the problem. Particularly the readers of Tolkien who wanted to see the Professor's work adapted authentically. And in their infinite wisdom, the creators of the show decided to make the fans of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, and all the works of Professor Tolkien the enemy. Responding to the backlash they absolutely knew they were going to get, Rings of Power producer and Bad Reboot reject Lindsay Weber famously said, "It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like."
But it's not the world. See, like, in my opinion, as soon as I hear something like that, I immediately assume that the media is going to be garbage. Because you, at this point, have now put your, like, viewpoints and your, like, social ideology, you have decided to elevate that above the source material. And what I think that really shows is it's a profound lack of it's a profound disrespect of the source material. You don't really care about making it authentic. You don't care about doing it the right way. You care about making it in line with what your viewpoints are. You see what I'm saying? Anytime that you see any even slight amount of like something that you could consider DEI in something, you should automatically assume that it's going to be garbage. Because a lot of the things like that that are added in for a DEI reason, fundamentally what that tells you is that they don't actually respect the source material enough to adapt it properly. Now, I'm not saying every single thing that's had a DEI thing in it is bad, but I think the correlation's pretty fucking strong.
Go back to the book, go back to the book, go back to the book.
Wicked, crazy, verse.
Completely ignoring the fact that Amazon paid $250 million to get access to a built-in audience that really enjoyed a world meticulously built by J.R.R. Tolkien and what he thought it actually looked like. Showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay also responding to the backlash called the fans patently evil.
The fans are patently evil? Well, wait a minute. I don't understand this. So the orcs aren't evil, but the fans are? What the fuck happened? It's insane.
To Dwarf of Color actress Sophia Numvetti stating that her role and the Rings of Power are a necessary redress of balance in Tolkien.
Everyone was cast because they were the absolute best person for the role and to be part of a redress of balance within this world.
I don't think that they understand, like, nobody that wanted to watch Lord of the Rings actually was a fan of the show wanted to have it recast for racial reasons, for like current day racial reasons. Nobody was asking for this. Nobody wanted this. Nobody needed this. I don't know, like, where they get this idea that this is something that the people wanted. That nobody wanted this at all. Like, nobody was asking for this.
And the rest is herstory, and by all accounts, the subversive work that is the Rings of Power should have been canceled, but the only reason it's still around is so Jeff Bezos won't be embarrassed. I would argue continuing to make it is more embarrassing. And of course, there's all the Access Media articles and academic research, from racially stereotyping in the works of Tolkien to a new Lord of the Rings prequel quietly confronts an uncomfortable legacy. How Amazon's The Rings of Power prequel grapples with the deeply ingrained ideas of racial difference and racial determinism in J.R.R. Tolkien's world.
These people are professional problem havers. That's all they do, is they find problems with things, they complain about shit, they get mad about it, and the worst part is that the world is supposed to pretend like they care. It's insane. Dear Tolkien fans, black people exist? Okay.
Tolkien fans, black people exist. And who can forget this book published in 2022, Tolkien, Race and Racism in Middle-earth by Robert Stewart? Well, apparently everybody forgot.
This is the problem that these people have, and this is the reason why I think so many people are, like, I think becoming more racist, is because they've wanted to put these viewpoints and these values in every single aspect of life, every single thing. They want to, like, go back and retroactively apply their current worldview to media that was, like, you know, 50 or 100 years old, right? Like, that's the issue. It's that, like, you can't do that, and you can't force everybody to think the way that you want and then expect there's not going to be a huge pushback.
It only has 3 reviews on Amazon, and it's sitting at a 2.6, and it costs $93.43.
Well, this is what I think is kind of funny about it, is that the entire this entire apparatus of people that are bringing up these topics, it's actually like nobody. Like, nobody actually cares about this stuff at all. It's just artificially astroturfed in order for people to think that this is a problem. But average people don't care about this, and they never did.
So this is nothing new under the 2 lamps, the 2 trees, or the Son of Arda.
Yes.
But this one takes it a step further because it's an actual course at the University of Nottingham.
Wow.
And that course comes off as an exploration of the actions of Robin Hood from the perspective of the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Call off Christmas.
Once again from the Telegram, and we got to give them a little credit here on this headline. Students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings is offensive. University course suggests Tolkien's treatment of evil characters follows a tradition of anti-African antipathy.
The first thing that I think of whenever I see Sauron is like, an African. I guess Tolkien must be racist.
A university is teaching students that J.R.R. Tolkien demonizes people of color in the Lord of the Rings books. A history module called Decolonizing Tolkien and Others, taught at the University of Nottingham, uses a text that says orcs and other dark-skinned characters in the trilogy are the victims of ethnic chauvinism.
Anytime that I see the word colonize used anywhere, basically, I just automatically assume that the person is retarded. I do. I pretty much instantly assume that. Like, if you're complaining about colonizing, you're decolonizing, you're even, it's like, it's one of those retard words. Now, this is not a 100% thing, right? Sometimes people use the term and it makes sense, but it's very rarely the case.
Offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Dr. Oneka Nubia, a historian and writer who leads the module, who's made plenty of appearances on the BBC, and has put forth the narrative that medieval England had towns and cities as diverse as modern London, which is absurd, argues that Eastern races in the fictional realm of Middle-earth are depicted as evil, while fairer-skinned peoples of the West are shown as virtuous. I mean,
man, When you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. This is what people like that do. Their entire career is built around trying to identify these things and getting upset about them. It really is insane. Someone's trying to create problems. Well, yeah, that's because nobody wants to tell this guy that he's wrong, and so they just let it happen.
Like dwarves who were not evil but could be famous assholes, like the petty dwarf men who betrayed Turin, or the dwarves that killed Thingol. And yes, despite what Amazon and their paid shills will say about dwarves, generally they're considered fair yet ruddy. And as far as elves are concerned, there's Feanor, whose actions led to the burning of the ships, and the kinslaying, which was the first time elves killed other elves. The sons of Feanor, who killed a lot of elves, or Maeglin, who betrayed Gondolin to Morgoth. Then there's the men of the West. Where do I even start? Maybe with the Numenorians, who were sacrificing humans to Morgoth, the black Numenorians, and no, they weren't black. And they were, deep in the past, oppressive rulers of realms like Umbar and Harad. Put simply, wasn't black and white. There was a lot of moral complexity to Tolkien's works, and not every fair-skinned character was virtuous.
I think that a lot of these people are just like really dumb, and the only way that they can understand conflicts is if they look at it through modern lenses. And that's the reason why they have these problems and why they keep seeing these issues, is that they're basically people that, you know, took AP English in 12th grade and learned to try to see everything as a metaphor for something else. And in my opinion, I think it's just such a stupid way of looking at things, number one. Number two, I think it's also something that makes stupid people feel smart. So you have a lot of people out there that are doing it.
Or expert, I'm just a fan, but imagine if a real scholar or even a hardcore lorehead took this clown's course. It'd be hilarious. In reference to decolonizing Tolkien in academia, decolonizing usually means re-examining or moving from white Western viewpoints.
Yeah, it's just basically anti-white, anti-Western viewpoints, basically, or deconstructing you know, why white people or Western culture is a problem in something. That's what decolonizing means.
So let me get this straight, Dr. Onyeka Nubia. You want to move away from the white Western viewpoint of Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, an Englishman who wanted to write a mythology for England from his English viewpoint. I mean, by all means, move away from it. But why would you want to waste your time doing that? Well, because it's not about re-examining or decolonizing. It's about deconstructing, to state the obvious, because somehow the academics got it in their brains that you can fight discrimination with discrimination. But it doesn't end there. In the module's core text, Dr. Onyeka writes that maligned peoples include Easterlings, Southrons, and men from Harad. The trilogy also features the dark-skinned orcs, evil creatures that do the bidding of Sauron, known as the Dark Lord. The trilogy, and I certainly hope you're not talking about the Peter Jackson films as much as they are the greatest trilogy ever made, they are not the most accurate adaptation of the professor's work. So are you just focusing on the Lord of the Rings books, leaving out The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, The Children of Hurin, The Fall of Gondolin, The Lost Tales, etc.? Yes, armies of Easterlings and Harad fought for Sauron, and yes, their complexions matched the regions they lived in because Tolkien accounted for that. You know who also fought for Sauron? The aforementioned fair race of the Numenorians, some of whom became the Nazgul. But as far as orcs are concerned, they're creatures who are humanoid, but not human, with mostly sallow skin, so I don't care what background.
Yeah, they have like green and like, you know, like weird ass skin. Like, what do you mean? It's not a fucking, it's not the same thing at all. Tolkien's personal writings show him to be against apartheid and definitely not racist. I mean, again, I think that just the implication of this is ridiculous.
A remark made in 1958. Many will make that the underlying thesis of Tolkien and all of his works being racist. But that is the deliberately disingenuous argument you will get from modern academics, particularly when it comes to Tolkien.
Sure, they tried this argument with Dungeons & Dragons and orcs and now have made them Mexican in new books, no lies. There's no way that orcs are Mexicans now. I'm sorry, I will not believe that until I see it.
While completely ignoring all the times that J.R.R. Tolkien said he was against things like racial doctrine and those National Socialists.
So this is just like him literally saying, I have a hatred of apartheid in my bones, and most of all, I detest the segregation or separation of language and literature. I do not care of which of them you think white. Okay, so then he's obviously not a racist. Okay, so then that's the end of it. All right, well, okay, great. Well, that was easy.
But the professor shouldn't feel alone because Dr. Onyeka Nubia also went after C.S. Lewis, Milton, and Shakespeare.
Yeah, again, you're complaining. This is the thing. People that have problems are problems. If you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And this is what it is. This is your job. Your job is to go around and look and find things to complain about and pretend that they're racist. That's what you do. That's why you're on TV. That's why people pretend to care about what you're saying. That is your entire existence. So, big surprise, you found it with Lord of the Rings too. Because that's all you're supposed to do.
And this is just the latest salvo against the good professor from the disingenuous and evil academics. But this reminds me of the worst case of betrayal, the Tolkien Society. Harkening back to their seminar in 2021, coincidentally, a year before the Rings of Power came out, so I'm sure this was totally a coincidence that they had seminars like this. Gondor in Transition, a brief introduction to transgender reality.
Oh boy. Wow. Wow.
Not sure how they managed to get a 30-minute seminar out of something that wasn't a reality anywhere within the works of the devout Catholic professor.
What is this new devilry?
And yes, these are real, from the real Tolkien Society, an educational charity and literary society devoted to the study and promotion of the life and works of the author.
The Tolkien Society is talking about transgenderism in Lord of the Rings? What the fuck is wrong with them?
Problem of pain, portraying physical disability in the fantasy of J.R.R. Tolkien.
What?
Tolkien's dwarf women and the feminine lack.
Oh my god. Oh god. This is amazing.
Projecting Indian myths, culture, and history onto Tolkien's worlds. The loss of indigeneity, identity, and anti-racism. Queer atheists, agnostics, and
Queer atheists, agnostics, and animists. Oh my. Comments are turned off. Gentlemen, I haven't said it for a while, so I want to say it again. We have two problems in our culture and our society, and all of our problems stem from two groups of people. The first group of people that cause all of our problems primarily are Karens. Karens cause all of our problems through selective empathy, performative empathy, narcissistic empathy, basically everything except for actual empathy, and also just being fucking delusional and stupid. And there is that. And, having a chip on your shoulder because something bad happened in your childhood and now the entire world has to suffer for it. The second group is incels. Incels also cause a lot of problems in our society. Many of them are mass shooters. They go out on rampages. They're violent. And they are also, you could say, created by Karens in a lot of cases. This basically encapsulates, I'd say, at least 90%, probably 95 or 99% of all of the problems in our entire culture are derived from just simply that two groups of people. That's it. And if we stopped listening to those two groups of people, we would be living in a paradise. We'd have flying cars. Nothing would be locked up in CVS. You could just simply go inside of a store. You wouldn't need them to check your receipt as you leave. Everything, you could leave your car unlocked. We would probably have computers that were faster. Everything would just be better. Everything would be better. Yeah, we could tell racist jokes and nobody would get mad. We can just keep going on and on and on and on.
This might be my favorite. Pardoning Saruman, the queer in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. For those of you who may or may not...
Saruman's gay?
The queer in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings.
What the
For those of you who may or may not know from the books, Saruman the White later identifies himself as Saruman of many colors, which could be interpreted...
No way! Saruman of many colors. They think it's the rainbow flag. No fuck. Actually, you know what? That's exactly why. For sure, bro. That's so retarded. I know that's the reason. That's super fucking retarded. Absolutely.
It is wearing a rainbow flag.
Ha! Gay!
And when he reveals himself, Gandalf's response pretty much sums up everything happening here.
For I am Saruman the Wise, Saruman of many colors.
I like white better.
White. It serves as a beginning. White
cloth can be dyed, the white page can be overwritten, and the white light can be broken.
In which case it is no longer white, and he that breaks a thing to find out what it is has left the path of wisdom.
Isn't it crazy whenever you listen to that dialogue and then you compare it to the slop that we get nowadays?
So I'd like to remind everyone who tries to take down this English legend, prolific author, and all-around good human being that the rest of the world does not agree with you, including you, Dr. Onyeka Nubia. Considering Lord of the Rings has been translated into 57 different languages and has at least 87 translations, it's sold over 150 million copies, making it the third or fourth best-selling book of all time. And if you combine it with The Hobbit, that's 250 million copies.
Wow.
Then there's all the other books and media, and of course the films, the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy, which have a combined worldwide gross of 5.875 million without adjusting for inflation. Based on that,
I do feel like Lord of the Rings is probably one of the core, like in terms of like Western media, it's pretty much one of the main pillars. That's it. Maybe now for a lot of people, younger people, it's Harry Potter also. Maybe, I don't know, a couple of other things, but mainly Lord of the Rings.
It appears that despite what some producers at Amazon and angry academics think, any detractors of the professor and his works are in the minuscule minority. But they're not going to stop.
This is the issue that happens, is that these people put themselves in positions of power, and then they try to astroturf and manipulate public perception into believing that what they think is actually like a commonly held viewpoint. And so they create this perception of consensus by trying to portray their viewpoints alongside the traditional viewpoints. But the reality is that almost nobody believes this stupid, retarded bullshit. Nobody actually believes this. That's why nobody's buying the books. That's why the shows that have this stuff involved fail. That's why it happens. And because the only place where it can succeed is a place where it is completely protected from anything else that could potentially put it at risk. It cannot survive in a free marketplace of ideas.
Because when we have a course at the University of Nottingham from the professor's home country called Decolonizing Tolkien, again, decolonizing...
I don't have a problem with the course, if you want me to be honest. I think it's fine. If you want to write and do a course about this, it's totally okay. I think, you know, it's, again, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, etc. I think maybe you could, you know, ask some questions about, like, you know, should tax dollars be going towards this, etc. But I think that, you know, people should be able to believe and teach courses and even stupid stuff, right? But this is definitely stupid.
Because students of the course in Nottingham will also learn to repopulate the canon of British myth and legend.
See, that's the problem, is that they want to change things. Like, I'm fine if you don't like an old story because you think it's racist or something like that. That's fine. But, like, if you don't, if that's the case, make your own.
The obvious, this isn't about adding to something or building something new.
Yes.
It's about destroying something. That's summed up by the Culture Explorer on X, and I couldn't have said it better myself. Forget education, this is cultural demolition. The goal isn't to re-examine the past, it's to poison it, to strip stories of their meaning until they become something you're ashamed to love.
My God.
First, they redefine the words. Then they rewrite the history, and finally, they tell you what you're allowed to believe.
Jesus Christ, yes!
This isn't a debate about orcs. It's a war over who owns your culture. And
exactly. Fucking exactly.
Key to destroying a culture is problematizing its past. And Lord of the Rings is just one more monument to tear down. And why do they hate Tolkien? Well, I don't think I'm breaking any news here. It's his conservative values. He was a devout Catholic.
Yeah, he's a conservative Catholic white man. Yeah, big surprise. They don't like people like that. You know why? It's because they're racist. That's the reason why. It's that simple.
And he had a deep distrust of large-scale government, values that are antithetical to the ideology of the modern activist and academic. And the timelessness and popularity of this story that will outlast them all serves as a constant reminder that nobody likes their ideas and nobody thinks they're any fun.
And that's what I think is very interesting about it, is that there's so much emphasis placed on placating and pacifying and keeping these people happy, when the reality is that they represent almost no one. Like, nobody likes these people. Very few people even subscribe to these ideas. But for whatever reason, everybody has to listen and pretend like this is some sort of valid viewpoint. No, I completely agree with him. I do. I do. I think it's just very simply, and I think that, yes, they do hate Tolkien because of what it represents, and I think they hate it for a number of reasons. They don't like the fact that it's not super racially diverse. They don't like the fact that it talks about, or it doesn't use an overt, you know, like sort of like, you know, modern storytelling. I think that in general, a lot of people, and this is something that I've noticed, is that a lot of people have a problem understanding, you know, and like coming to terms with the fact that like certain things are just, you know, naturally good and evil, right? Like people like to have shades of gray in things because I don't know, I guess maybe it scares them or it's weird to them that maybe certain things are just good and other things are just bad. And I don't really know why that is. I'm not sure why that is. I have to think about it more. This is the image that somebody sent me. Second illustration that I made for the revised PHB, the species entry for orcs. So whenever somebody said they made orcs Mexicans, oh my fucking God, that is incredible. It's like, this is the kind of stuff, guys. Like, you don't see something like this every day. They literally made orcs Mexicans. Are you kidding me? It's that bad? I know. These people are just awful. They are awful. Oh my God.